Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call the meeting of the Richmond City Council for Monday, June 23rd, 2025 to order. May I have a motion on the minutes? All those in favor, post carried. And Madam Clerk, any agenda additions or deletions?
None, Your Worship.
All right, may I have a motion to resolve in the committee of the whole to your delegations on items on the agenda? All those in favor, post carried. Any parties wishing to speak to us about items on the agenda? Okay, are you together? Okay, so come on forward. And take the seats, have a seat, introduce yourselves, and it's got to be on an item on the agenda, so you can tell us what that is.
Your Worship, my name is Lindy McKinnon. I'm a retired officer of the Canadian Forces, and I put forward a proposal to council and council members to install a remembrance crosswalk here in the city of Richmond. I think we're agenda 12.
Okay,
Maybe on your
yes.
agenda today.
Item 12, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the reason I did that was because cities across Canada have started to install these remembrance crosswalks. And I thought the city of Richmond would take this initiative and see how important it is to veterans, the families of the fallen, and that we have a perfect opportunity to do it here in front of the City Hall where our cenotaph rests.
Okay. Mr. Fontaine, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Ron Fontaine, and I'm the
Just a
president
minute.
of the Legion
Yeah.
in Richmond here. And I just like to thank City Council. I would also like to thank your Transportation Committee coordinator, Ms. Kurji, and did a great job guiding us through the process. We had a number of different visions of it, but we came to a conclusion, and I think we're all on board. So thanks kindly.
Okay, there's a question from Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. You know, when I looked at the original design, I really liked it. But it wasn't until after the Richmond Accessibility Advisory Committee got engaged and we realized that there were some things that needed to be tweaked. And I really like that, I'm not sure if this was your initiative, that's my question, for the lest we forget, as opposed to the original text was in honor of those who served and I can't even, it's so small you can't read it. So was it your idea or the Richmond Accessibility Advisory Committee that came up with the lest we forget?
The lest we forget was in my original proposal. And because there were some folks that attended the information session that were looking to use the poppy within the crosswalk, and we knew that the poppy was a copyrighted item through the Canadian Legion. So Ron took that back to the Legion and they said no, that it could not be used. And so therefore we had to look at other options. And I think the one that's the Canadian Legion then figured out, well, there's so many crosswalks being installed across Canada, we better come out with something that we approve. So they did, and it does have the maple leaf on each side of the crosswalk and the full text of two-liner there. Yeah. And both Ron and I felt that the two-liner is way too long and in English and French to install here in Richmond. Yeah. You know, we want people to read lest we forget. It's a quick message again, and not spend their time reading two lines of text, and we want them to pay attention to the traffic.
Be prepared for the ultimate compliment, which is everyone's going to copy you. So.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, just quickly, first of all, thank you very much for the plan. Thank you for coming forward. It's well overdue. I have two questions. I actually one for staff as well. Is it possible to have when the crosswalk is put in, a dedication with the units, the branches, and our battalion and cadets as a service to commemorate this? This is an extremely unique one in Canada with the maple leaf, if you go across the country, and we'll probably be the model. And I just thought when it's done, and the question I have of staff is when would this get put in? And could staff tie with them to have a dedication ceremony?
Well, we won't go to staff yet. We can do that on the agenda.
Yeah, sure, we have passed.
Do you have any?
In regards to your having a ceremony, I think it'd be fantastic to have the young cadets. We got 6 cadet groups here in Richmond. And I
by
think-
air, sea, and land.
I think using the cadets for something like that, it will give them the ability to show off their capabilities, for one thing. They would be honored to do it, I'm sure, and it would also show them, give them some recognition. So I think using the cadets would be a
Well, we
great
leave it
way
in
to
your
do that.
capable hands. Thank you.
Yeah, our staff can work with you on that. So thank you very much
Okay,
for
thanks,
coming and
Riley.
making a
Thank you, Your Worship.
presentation. And so that'll be on the consent agenda. We'll deal with it in a few minutes. There was another hand. Oh, Mr. Dickey, come forth. So you know the rules. You've got 5 minutes. Tell us what on the agenda you want to discuss and let us know your thoughts.
Jerome Dickey, 9280 Glen Allen Drive, Richmond. Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. So the Richmond Olympic Oval forensic audit is...
Which one do you want to?
Oh, sort of item 18?
18,
Yeah.
okay.
The Richmond Olympic Oval forensic audit is the second sort of scandal happening in the city now. And the first one, of course, being the gift card scandal, where we have $295,000 in unaccounted for gift cards, and they're seen for investigating right now. So despite public statements calling these an isolated incidents, the volume and duration of these issues suggest systemic internal control failures. The question is, what incidents have yet to surface? These are two. What else is out there? Councillor Heed, thank you for just recently proposing dissolving the Orville Corporation entirely and bringing operations under direct city oversight. Great thinking outside the box. Like to see a little more of that. And my comment might be a little premature with the investigation going on, but needless, the thinking shows, it's there. So recent scandals point to several red flags that were either missed, ignored, or tolerated over time. They're not isolated incidents. They signal deeper systemic issues in how the city governs itself and the affiliated entities, the corporations you have. I want to focus on a few factors here. One is sort of the unmonitored discretionary spending, the gift cards in particular, $300,000. Is there a lack of clear policies there?
Sir, you're delegating on the.
Yes, I'm getting to
local matter.
that, and it's coming up. It's all part of this.
Get to it
Yeah.
quickly.
Well, I got 5 minutes, don't I, to do this?
You have to deal with the issue that you have
Yeah,
identified.
these are all related to it, because these are issues that are relevant to it. Okay? The second point, weak reporting oversight of an arm's length corporation here. It's been operated for years with public subsidies and little public scrutiny. Council and public were often kept at arm's length from decisions that involved millions of dollars of taxpayers' money. So the board of directors was not accountable to council. There's no regular detailed reporting of executive expenses, contracts, or subsidies that I'm aware of. Oversight mechanisms like performance metrics, audits, and strategic alignment reviews were either missing or inconsistently applied. When a public funded entity operates without effective oversight, it erodes democratic accountability. Third, lack of transparency with council and the public. In both these cases, the Oval and gift cards, council learned of key facts after media inquiries and public pressure, not through reporting and in financial controls or checks. There was no real-time disclosure of financial risks or unusual activity. Annual financial statements may have masked the operational concerns behind these consolidated statements. The public had limited access to board minutes, executive expenses, or the rationale for continued subsidy levels. When information flow is controlled or delayed, transparency is replaced by secrecy, and trust erodes. 4, delayed action. Despite years of visible subsidy concerns, the Oval has received over $53 million in subsidies since 2010. Councillors have raised concerns in previous years, but no structural changes were made. So we don't know if we're getting value for money there, out of that. And the annual subsidy is increased. Delay is not due diligence, it's a failure to lead. And so what can council do now in the interim? I know the answer right now is waiting for the investigations, but there's things you can do in the meantime. And two things clearly come to mind here is around transparency. Publicly release timeline, scope, and progress updates on both forensic investigations every 30 days would be a start. Commit to releasing final audit findings, reacted only where, of course, it's legally required. And the second is governance training. Mandate immediate governance and financial oversight training for council and senior leadership. Roles and responsibilities training. Oversight of arm's length corporations. Risk management, whistleblower protections, and fiduciary duty. These can begin now within the next 30 to 60 days. You don't have to wait for the investigations to complete to do those things. So with nearly 300,000 untracked gift cards and millions in oval subsidies passed through financial reports without flags, residents are right to question whether public statements can be trusted or not. Richmond is at a crossroads. Public trust is damaged. Council can begin restoring it today.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. May I have a motion? Oh, is there anyone else wanting to speak to us?
Move rise and report.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Brings us to the consent agenda. There's a few items here. Receipt of committee minutes, the Fraser River Tunnel Project environmental assessment, the application review comments. There's a land use application for first reading, which goes to public hearing July 21st. 9100 and 9120 Bridgeport Road rezoning from school and institutional use zone to the auto-oriented commercial zone. The item for Audlin Crescent has been taken off the consent agenda. Abandonment of unadopted bylaws, the Youth Climate Corps BC, and the commemorative crosswalk to honor veterans. May I have a motion to adopt those by general consent? Second. Moved and seconded. Any comments? All right. Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'm supporting everything on the consent agenda. Just going to comment on a couple of things. So the Fraser River Tunnel Project environmental assessment, it's well underway, and in case the public hadn't read any of it, our staff was able to give comments throughout all factors of the assessment, and you know, originally they had said that the old tunnel was going to have to be removed, but I had heard from biologists that there's no way it could be removed because it would cause too much damage to the river, and so now, sure enough, the old tunnel doesn't need to be removed. But the one main outstanding item for Richmond, well, aside of how the multi-use pathway is going to connect through the tunnel, that's a big item for me. I'm curious to see how that's going to go. But the other one is that the council strongly feels that the BC Hydro transmission lines need to stay underground and rather than being overhead. And currently they're in the old tunnel. And we did hear from family members of George Massey and others years ago that, you know, it's a big piece of infrastructure that could be kept and upgraded. And to me, it makes sense to just keep the hydro lines in there and do upgrades. And who knows, maybe that'll end up being something that they discover instead of just filling it and filling it with material and closing it off. But the more will be revealed on that. And the 9100, 9120 Bridgeport Road, this is a rezoning into a auto-oriented commercial, which fits in with the neighborhood and what's happening currently. It was institutional use because it was a city fire hall. And so they're going to be repurposing the building, and that'll be good for the community and for employment to have commercial uses there. And the Youth Climate Corp BC, it's great to see that we're going to be doing a pilot to get youth engaged in climate-related jobs, getting paid a living wage, and that develops passion for our environment, and the city will benefit from it as well as the funding is matched by the program there. And of course, the crosswalk. It's great that we're doing this now. And when you see those crosswalks, any special crosswalks, it really makes you think. As soon as you see it, you think and you remember. And so it's really going to have an impact. And I'm really glad that we're doing this now. Thanks.
Okay, with that, we're going to call the question. Oh, Councillor Day, you have another point?
I'm not allowed to talk on the consent agenda? Sorry.
That's where we are.
Good. Okay. Got another point. Yes, I have a couple of points. So number 7 is the Fraser River Tunnel Project Environmental Assessment. I just want to let the public know that when this tunnel is completed, it will last 150 years. It is expected to start in 2026 and be completed in 2030. And I know that's a long time, but at least it will get done. We were concerned, all of council, about the removal of the old tunnel, and we expressed our concerns to the provincial government, and they now have decided, after doing these various studies that have taken quite a few years, that the tunnel will stay, the ends will be filled in, and the exits and entrance will be removed. So it's actually going to stay because it's environmentally less obtrusive. If anybody wants to see where the tunnel is going to be, it's on page 63 of our report, and there's a map of where the new tunnel will be just east of the existing tunnel. And I'm pleased to see in number 8 that rezoning application for the old fire hall on Bridgeport Road, which, believe it or not, was originally zoned in school and institutional uses. Now it will be auto-orientated commercial, which will allow it to be potentially a car dealership or a rental place, which is excellent because they're so close to the airport and all the hotels. Number 11 was the Youth Climate Corps at the Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting. I was pleased to welcome the Youth Climate Corps BC group, and they presented an excellent presentation. And then we are going to be providing some money to allow these young people to kind of between like 18 and I think 30 to work with the City of Richmond and learn about how to have green initiatives and work on that. And then the commemorative crosswalk, the Lest We Forget crosswalk. I've showed this design to a number of veterans, and they're just thrilled to pieces with it. They absolutely love how it's worked out, and I think it's a template for success in the future. So thank you for that.
All right, with that, we will call the question. All those in favor of the consent agenda? Any opposed? That is carried. I'll now go to Councillor McNulty, Chair of Planning, on number 9, which was taken off the consent agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. It's an application by Orion Construction for the rezoning at 8800 Audland Crescent and 8711 Audland Road from a single detached RS1E zone to the industrial retail R2 zone. And the recommendation that it be introduced and given first reading, and I would so move. And
So that's moved and seconded.
seconded, yeah. Thank you, Your Worship. This particular development is a permit to develop a two-story multi-tenant building with light industrial and limited retail access with vehicle access to Audland Road. The proponent has come through with all the scriptures that we have to have. They've dealt with the Ministry of Environment referral. They've looked at the floodplain management, and they've got the parking, the surface parking that they've needed on it, and are coming up with a number of contributions to the community in terms of planning, a considerable amount of money, $15,000 to that, money to the public art. They put compensation and guarantees on the trees and tree retention and replacement on the particular site. So that is taken care of, and a major contribution to our Public Art Reserve Fund. And they're dealing with all the sustainability issues that are required for it, and the site servicing and street frontage, because it is on Audland and we know where it is, and it is the old fire hall, and it is quite busy along the way up there. So with that, Your Worship, I think it's a very worthy application that should go through. That's it.
Not the old fire hall.
Yeah.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'll be speaking opposed to this item. I attended the planning committee where this was discussed, and a couple of the things I brought up then, and I'll highlight now. So it's right beside a Rice World supermarket, very busy. It backs up onto into the intersection of Audland Road and Garden City, and I'm aware through the memo that we received from staff about the bylaws, trying to keep on top of this area and doing enforcement and all that. It's also just a really odd intersection. We have lots of them in Richmond, but this one with the stretch and the boulevard in the middle of Garden City Road, you get vehicles coming out, heading east on Audlin Road, out of the Rice World area. And because if they want to go left, it's not clear, the car coming the other way goes left, who goes on which side of each other. So you end up getting so much hesitation and nobody gets out. And then the whole people can't even get out of the parking lot of Rice World, let alone through the intersection. It's hazardous for pedestrians as well. I've spent 30 years living on Audlin Road, so I'm very familiar with how it was before and how it is now. For a time, I used to go to the elementary school at the end of Audlin Road, adjacent to the site that's in question here. It used to be Eburn Elementary for a while when they were rebuilding Tomset. Now it's a private school, and just today, the school district announced that they bought it for $60 million, and they're going to turn it into a full-fledged elementary school. And so there's going to be lots of more activity and draw to this area. There are other ways out. It's not just Audlin Road and Garden City. You got McKim, there's no light there. You got Audlin Crescent and Cambie, there's no light there. There's Sexsmith and Cambie, but again, it's already pretty narrow and congested most of the time. I did read in the memo that this potential development, industrial retail, is going to work at hours that might not conflict with Rice World, but we also can't agree necessarily what businesses will operate here. Maybe it'll change from time to time. So that's a one thing. There's 19 parking stalls, and for what they're going to try and draw in, I think is going to be a real challenge. I think other things need to be addressed first. And finally, the other item I just want to speak to on this is it's a tree slaughter. There's 34 on-site trees. They're all going. There's one shared tree. It's going. There's 7 neighbor trees on neighborhood property. 4 of them are going. And there's 10 street trees, city trees, and 9 of them are going. So they don't have to replace the neighborhood trees, and they don't have to replace the city trees, but their own trees, they're supposed to put in 70 because one of them's significant and they don't think it's that significant, so they're going to remove it in the 3-to-1. So they require 70, but they have room for 6. So there you go.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question of staff for one thing that Councillor Wolf just brought up. So the subject site is located within the ANSD Area A1, which prohibits new aircraft, noise-sensitive land uses, example, residential uses, childcare facilities, hospitals, and schools. The property that Councillor Wolf just mentioned that was purchased by the school board that's going to be a school, is that just outside of the ANSD zone then, or is that also within the ANSD zone?
Through your worship to Councillor Galanders, that site is already located within the neighborhood. It's an existing school. It's already zoned school and institutional use. So the way that the ANSD policy is drafted and applies is to any new use that would be introduced to the area. This would be considered an existing.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Yeah, it seems funny to me that we're not going to be having any residential uses in this area anymore because it's in the aircraft noise area, but we're going to build a new school. But you know, I can't fault council for voting this through because it complies with the OCP, and you can't fault the developer, the proponent at all, because they're following all the rules as far as building a commercial property on this previous residential, because that is the plan for this area. And we discussed this last year when some residents that were living on Leslie Road in beautiful, very wooded homes that are all rented, how there's hawks and eagles and just a ton of wildlife in this area. And the way that we've had designed our OCP back the last time we updated it, far before I was on council, was that this area was going to be changed from residential to commercial, and we're going to be doing residential in other commercial areas. And to me, it just, the way we did it is a little bit backwards, maybe short-sighted, in that instead of maybe doing parks and multi-use pathways on this very, very, very treed area, and then doing residential on commercial in the industrial areas that we're turning into parks. So we're like taking industrial areas and turning them into parks, but taking very established, very biodiverse areas and turning them into commercial. It's just very counterintuitive. I can see why it was done, but I don't agree with it. And as Councillor Wolf pointed out, 32 trees, Douglas firs, figs, cherries, maple, spruce, plum, walnut, significant trees, cedars, they're all going, and it's, and other councillors have said we should really reconsider what we're doing on Leslie Road, Audlin Road area. Why are we doing that? But then when it comes to council, this is an opportunity. So if you want to not do that anymore, we could vote against it and change it. But once we've started getting rid of these homes and these trees and doing commercial there's no turning back. So this was the opportunity. That's why I'm going to have my vote recorded as in opposition to it. And other people who say they wish we weren't doing it, well, maybe they should speak up too. Thanks.
Councillor Howe.
Yes, Your Worship. Well, when we discussed this item on Planning Committee, I already raised questions, and also I shared Councillor Wu's concern regarding the transportation pattern in that area. And again, reading from the news today that the school board has purchased that private school site for a full elementary school. So I think this would add to the worsening of the traffic pattern in that area. So I want to ask the staff, would that be an opportunity since the school board has purchased that site of the school? Is there any opportunity that we can really reconfigure the travel pattern in that area? Whether or not the new school site have to follow the existing entrance and exit pattern, or can anything be reconfigured?
To your worship, Councillor Au, absolutely. We can certainly, we could have a look at any sort of development or use that we wanted to have there and the traffic that might be associated with it.
So at what stage can this be done?
Through your worship to Councillor Au, generally whenever people come in to do development of any kind or build a school or anything like that, that's when a traffic impact assessment is performed, and at that point in time, that's when that's assessed.
Okay, good, thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. So when we voted on this the other day at Planning Committee meeting, we didn't know that there was a potential that school was going to be turned into a City of Richmond school. So if you look at the map or the overhead drawing on page 108, it shows the area where this is proposed to go, and then it shows this big square to the west, which is where the new school is going to be. Well, most of the kids that go to that school are probably going to come from the apartments on the other side of Garden City. So we want to create a very safe environment. I feel strongly, and if you look at page 113, the way this building doglegs into Audlin, it's going to create a choke point. And so if the developer would be willing to go back to the drawing board and get rid of that dogleg and create a straight through, then and eliminate the one building or the one unit, just one unit, that is on the southwest corner of the development, then I could maybe support it. But, and that would also allow for the trees and vegetation that are in that area to also be saved and could create a park-like setting for the kids who would be going to that school down the road. So I'd like to make a motion that we refer this back, given this new information that the Richmond School District is purchasing the private school on Audlin Crescent and Audlin Road, and take another look at this, because I don't think we have to, throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I do believe this particular development could be improved. So I think it is important that we do that and send it back, and let's take another look at it and see if we can't make it more user-friendly.
All right, so your motion is to refer this back to staff to
Yes,
take a
Mayor.
further look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm going to call the question on that referral motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? So that is defeated. Councillor Au, McNulty, Lou Hobbs, Heed, and the mayor opposed. So I'm going to call the question on the main motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried with Councillors Wolf, Day, and Galanders opposed. So that brings us to the items in the agenda that the first item was taken off the consent agenda previously because there was opposition to it. And it's the city center traffic study. So let's see, the chair of Public Works and Transportation, is that, who's, Councillor Day? Is that you? Okay, if you could introduce it.
Okay, so city center traffic study, terms of reference. This is,
No, just make the motion.
the motion is that we allow $250,000 for a traffic study for Gilbert, Minru, number 3, and, help me, Buswell.
All right, so that's moved. Is it seconded? It moved and seconded. Go ahead if you want to discuss it.
Yeah, so this was quite a discussion in Public Works and Transportation Committee. And we even had a member of the public come forward and express concerns. It's a very large area. And so one of the things that I'd like to ask staff is, I mean, how this all came to be was that we were concerned about the speed on number 3 road and should we make some changes? But then these other roads got added on to the study area. So I'm wondering if staff could comment on, is it possible to do a sort of a phase 1, phase 2 of this study so that we can get going as soon as possible on the number 3 road section from Westminster Highway to Granville, and then get more information on the other 4 roads?
Councillor Day, absolutely, we could do something like that, but keep in mind that when we do something on one of these roads in this area, that it will impact the others, generally moving demand away or to them.
Right, good point. Thank you, that's it for me.
All right, just before I go to Councillor Heed, I'm just going to remind that at the committee where this was discussed, or the first discussion took place, the first suggestion was to reduce the speed on number 3 road between Granville and Westminster Highway from 50 down to 30 kilometers per hour. And then various councillors had various other issues of a similar nature that were proposed. And that's why we said, okay, do a full, for the northwest streets, do a full traffic study from Garden City to number 3 to Minru to Gilbert. And that's where it came from. So, Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor, and you're correct in, identifying that. And I guess I'm not opposed to that. The problem I have with this, and we talked about this in committee, is I was bewildered as to why this is going to cost $150,000 of taxpayer money. It's going to take 5 months to do, and it's not going to start till we approve something in the 2026 budget. We're at least a year, if not longer, away from any action on that. So I was very surprised we have to hire a consultant when a lot of the information should be available to us at this particular time. So my opposition, Mayor, is this kind of has been blown out of proportion. Something is cost effective of looking at number 3 road and reducing, and as I explained, it's simply because of all the development around there, all of the residential buildings, the Canada Line station, the crosswalks that are put up there is just from, as you mentioned, Westminster to Granville to reduce the speed. Then we started to discuss, what about Minru? What about some of the other north-south streets? We should look at that. And yes, we should, Mayor. We should absolutely look at it. But I tell you, I'm not saying it should be part of this. I think at the cost that we're throwing at the taxpayer to deal with something like that, and the length of time it's going to take is unacceptable. So I won't be supporting the motion the way it is.
Mr. B, could you comment on those points? There was how much it's going to cost and the timing of the entire study.
Absolutely, Your Worship. The study, the terms of reference we provided at the committee's request is very comprehensive in its nature. It looks at all modes of travel, buses, trucks, cars, pedestrians, cyclists. It's just very comprehensive, and that's what we estimate it will cost at this point in time. With respect to 2026, in our original report, we had let the committee know, and now council, that we would put this forward if they would, if they wished, as part of the 2026 capital budget. Subsequent to that, last week, I provided a memo to council saying if you wish to proceed more quickly, certainly you could pass a resolution to allocate this money from the DCC accounts.
All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Yeah, that was part of what was just stated there, where we had an option to bring money forward and get this started sooner, was one of the reasons I just made the motion to go ahead with the way it was written, so we could bring it to this table and all of us could provide some input on to maybe making that the solution. I also just want to highlight a couple other things that I see benefiting the city with this. $150,000 in kind of the core of movement of people in our city, the terminus of the Candle Line Station. I think a number of great points were brought up by a resident, Urgin Ma, and as we got on table here in front of us, and Mr. B's response to it, the Urgin Ma's contribution were valued by staff and will be considered into this program going forward, such as taking into account that bus passengers are a high percentage of total road users on this section, that TransLink has existing information, and rather than doing standalone research, utilize what TransLink already has. Another point was to include a stakeholder group movement. So I think this is the time to go ahead with the full-on traffic study, as opposed to waiting for the budget process or some things that can do that, but this is something we need to get on sooner. I did find it a bit counterintuitive that Vision Zero, which typically says they want things slower speed limits, so if you get hit, you're less likely to die. In the report, it was a little bit counterintuitive, saying that this is a thoroughfare and you want to move people through quicker. The full traffic study is looking beyond through road. Then you look at those arterial or alternative paths that we can direct vehicles down and away from where the pedestrian zone center really is. So I would like to, I don't know if I need to make the amendment now, or maybe we'll let people speak and then they can come back to me to seek funding sources from the DCCs.
Yeah, we'll come back to you. Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, I wasn't at committee meeting, but we've had a couple reports along this line. And I just have to say, when you're talking about major arterial roads, thoroughfares, like the roads in this study, couple things. One, the 3 E's, so to say, the engineering and education and enforcement, those can be done independently anytime. You don't need a study to do it. There's been an incredible amount of research on it already, so I don't know that there's much to learn there. When it comes to 50K on major roads, that is a safe speed, in my opinion, as a maximum speed. We're not trying to put a speed limit on a road that's low so that people going 30 or 40 kilometers an hour over it are driving safely. The maximum speed should be the maximum speed, which allows police to do enforcement reasonably. So I think the most effective thing in the city center in terms of slowing traffic down and keeping people safe actually is congestion. I mean, you can be on the Coquihalla, and if there's congestion, you're not moving. So despite what the speed limit might be. So I think the congestion actually serves a purpose in the downtown core, and most of us probably avoid it unless we really have to drive into that part of town. So congestion, the number of lights, the number of pedestrians, everything, I think actually is its own type of safety valve. And I did find it interesting that Vision Zero did acknowledge in the report that although they do favor lower speed limits, and those are appropriate in a lot of places, and we've looked at those, they do recognize that on kind of the main streets, if you want to call it that, 50K is a reasonable speed limit. I also found in reading the reports that in the data that we have collected to date, the evidence doesn't support lowering the speed limit. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when you look at the 85th percentiles and the average speeds, they are within, really within the speed limit. So I also don't necessarily agree with spending $150,000 for this study, regardless of what source the funding comes from, because as we've all mentioned from time to time, it is all tax dollars. So even if we have it available. So for those reasons and a few that I'm not going to dwell on, I'm not going to support the recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thanks very much. I was at the committee meeting and I was considerable discussion. All 6 roads go through neighborhoods. You know, you can say all we want. Speed is an issue in Richmond. And if we don't deal with speed, Councillor Heed bought out number 3 road, and I brought up Minero. Seniors are all getting almost sideswiped and what have you, because our drivers are not paying attention. So let's face the fact and bite the bullet, no matter what you think. The metrics may not support it, but guess what? In Steveston, it's working. We didn't pay $150,000. Dyke Road, Your Worship, down by you, it's working. We didn't pay $150,000 for that. We don't need to pay money for it. Okay? We need to look at the metrics. If speed is an issue, we need to change things. How do we do it? Maybe we get 4 more RCMP officers and have them out there deal with it, whatever. I can't justify cost, time, and a consultant that doesn't live in the neighborhood when the neighbors are the ones complaining about the speed. Okay? And these are our people. So speed is the issue. And I don't know what metrics we're going to get back. As Councillor Hobbs said, the metrics don't maybe do it. No, I know that before we start. Nobody wants to slow down. That's the problem. So how do we slow them down? That's the issue that we should be coming up with. We want our neighborhoods to be safe. We want our business to be safe. You want to be able to parallel park on Cooney, get off and go to the medical clinic there or whatever it is, et cetera, without getting run over. So I can't support $150,000 on it. But more importantly, I think the report is great for an overall study, but I'm not sure that's what we need to reduce speed. So, Your Worship, I won't be supporting this one.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I've got I was also at the committee meeting, and I have a question. So on CNCL 148, it says what our regular procedure is. The residents request speed management measures on their local street or laneway, and then we conduct analysis, collaborate with residents, and come up with something. Now, in this case, I wasn't sure where the original origins came from. Now, was it Councillor Heed and Councillor McNulty have both mentioned, Councillor McNulty mentioned 3 Road, or you mentioned 3 Road, and Councillor McNulty mentioned Minero. Did this come from residents' complaints to the city and the residents' requests, or just from the councillors? Or do you know?
To Your Worship, Councillor Galanders, this was given to us as a referral from the committee.
From the committee, okay. So, you know, I don't know if residents' request means that the request has to come to the city, or if it can just come privately to councillors like, hey, I think this is a problem, then the councillor brings it forward. But if this is different than any of our other times that we've, like the things we're doing in Steveston and London Landing, did we do $150,000 studies in those areas as well, or we don't need to because it came from residents? Or can you just explain the difference, please?
Your Worship, Councillor Galanders, generally we're doing this in response to a public concern of speed in a local neighborhood, like a residential roadway. And that's certainly something that's supported by Vision Zero and something that Council has often supported when we brought it forward. That's generally how we've done that so far. We haven't contemplated as staff doing this on arterial roadways at this point in time, and nor have we had any residents phone me or my staff and or send us emails or anything like that asking us for such a thing.
Okay. Well, what I think is we still have a lot of development happening on Minero. I don't think we know what it's all going to look like. It's 30 kilometers an hour right now because of the construction. We don't know how it's all going to work. I think that crosswalk is dangerous, as I said in committee. But I don't think I can even drive 50 kilometers down 3 Road because of the congestion, as Councillor Hobbs mentioned, and it just seems odd to me that we would go ahead and do a study that costs a lot of money if the original people, councillors that brought it to committee are voting against it. So perhaps we just kind of missed the mark on this one. But I would I could vote either way, but if the people that wanted this are voting against it, it doesn't really make sense to go forward unless I can hear something compelling of what we're going to discover. But I would be interested in Councillor Wolf's amendment. Thanks.
Staff, is there any data to indicate that speeding is a problem in that section of the city center? I can hardly imagine that we can drive over 30 kilometers per hour, except in the evening or on Sunday morning. So, is there any data to support that speeding is actually a problem here?
Through your worship to Councillor Au, we didn't look at all of the roads that are in the study area, but we did previously report back to committee on number 3 Road and what we found. And our speed study did show that the 85th percentile, as Councillor Hobbs noted earlier, was about 46 kilometers an hour. So below the posted speed limit, but above 30 kilometers an hour.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll go back to Councillor Wolf. Now, I would think your amendment, if I understand it, is what is in this memo, so that what we have in front of us would be number 1, terms of reference described, et cetera, dated June 5th, from the Director of Transportation be endorsed. And secondly, that a capital project of $150,000 from a city center traffic study be approved with funding in the amount of $141,075 from roads development cost charges and $89,25 from the capital reserve revolving fund, and that the consolidated 5-year financial plan 25 to 29 be amended accordingly. Is that your amendment?
I'll take those words, yep.
Okay, so to split it out and to amend it in that way. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, so that is defeated. The 3 councillors are in favor and everyone else is opposed. So we'll go then to the main motion as set out on the agenda sheet, which talks about authorize a project request of 150 as part of the next budget process. All those in favor? Those opposed? All right, so Councillor Wolf is in favor, everyone else is opposed. All right, that brings us to the Finance and Corporate Services Division. First of all, we have the 2024 annual report and the report highlights. May I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. As usual, this is the highlights report is the highlight of what we do here in council and the city. And what I actually really enjoyed was our CAO, Serena Lusk, wrote a 1-page letter to the people of Richmond. And one of the things that she stated in her letter was that we secured $35.9 million in grant funding from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation's Housing Accelerator Fund to speed up the delivery of housing and affordable housing in the city by implementing a fast-track review process for purpose-built rental housing applications. And the question I have for her is that as I was looking through the report, it stated that in 2024 is going to become a record year for development at $1.2 billion and 1,930 new dwellings, which include 200 market rental and 130 low-end market rental and 110 below market rental. And then furthermore, there's new rezoning for another 1,500 units. And we have 1,930 new units with new permits, and we've done third reading for an additional 1,500 units. Can you tell us how the Accelerator Fund allowed us to hire new faces and how this accelerated permitting process is working?
Yeah, through the Mayor to Councillor Day, yes, the Housing Accelerator Fund has been an important source of support for us to be able to devote resources to rental housing, to prioritize it, to put it on the top of the pile when it comes in, and to move it through our processes as fast as possible as we work with developers and other bodies in the city, including nonprofits. Wayne Craig may have something more to add on the details better than I can.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Day. I think one of your questions related to staffing initiatives. There have been a number of staff added to the housing office as well as the development applications team. Within the development applications team, there is a designated unit which is focused on purpose-built rental housing exclusively. The grant received by the CMHC also included a number of other initiatives, permitting optimization project, some looking at automated plan review through the use of machine learning technology, a grant program for the payment of development cost charges for voluntary affordable housing units secured through development. There are a number of initiatives that were involved in that grant application.
Thank you. And, you know, that's what I thought was happening in the city. So that's why I was somewhat disappointed to hear MP Ao say that the Housing Accelerator Fund is a Liberal failure and that housing starts are down and that families are suffering in Richmond. So I hope that this helps clarify this for you, Councillor Ao.
All right, thank you. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Council remuneration and expenses, that the report titled 2024 Council remuneration and expenses be received for information. Moved and seconded. Councillor Ao.
Yes, Your Worship, I just want to refer to a table on CNCL 266. Some members of the public asked me why my remuneration is substantially lower than that of other councillors. So I just want to put on record that since 2019, I've chosen to freeze my remuneration when at the time council passed a resolution to increase council's remuneration by 16% to compensate for the change of the taxation regulation, which eliminate the tax exemption of city councillors' remuneration at the time. So I just want to put on record that that's the reason why I received less than the others.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Then we have the 2024 council remuneration and expenses from other agencies. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Statement of financial information. Moved and seconded. Councillor Day.
Very much, very long report, lots of great information in it, but I want to draw your attention to page 365. The City of Richmond gave grants and subsidies to nonprofits that added up to a whopping $4,841,781 in 2024. So while we did have to raise taxes this year, it was unfortunate for a lot of people, but the money's going in the right place, which is policing, to firefighters, to infrastructure. We're building a $96 million community center in Steveston. But this is my favorite line. This is what we gave to nonprofits. So thank you for the report.
Okay, Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor. And, I'll have basically a comments because Mr. Chong was very generous in answering most of my questions, so I'm just going to make a comment. When you look at the schedule of remuneration and expenses for overall city employees, I think it's important to look at the employees in excess of 75,000 and employees under 75,000. And the numbers are relatively interesting. Employees that made greater than $75,000 for the City of Richmond were 1,233. Employees that made less than $75,000 is 1,537 employees. The question I didn't ask Mr. Chong is if the exempt candidates were part of the numbers, and if he could give just a general opinion on whether they were in greater than 75,000 or less than 75,000?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, if I understand your question, you want to know the percentage of exempt greater than 75 versus union employees. The amount of exempt employees that are over 75K is approximately 18.5%, and under 75 is 2.5%. So the majority of the over and under 75K are unionized employees.
Thank you. And the other one I just want to draw the attention to, and Mr. Chong was very good in answering this, and this is on 357, when we talk about the amount of money that was paid to the Receiver General of Canada for the RCMP. And I wasn't sure whether that 65 million plus included the subsidiary or not. And it's my understanding, Mr. Chong, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is net of that, so it would include the 10% subsidy.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, that is correct. It is the net amount, including the 10% subsidy from the federal government.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Moving along, Richmond Olympic Oval Corporation, the statement of financial information. So that's moved and seconded. Councillor Day.
Yeah, thank you very much for the report, much more detailed than what we've been used to. I see that the highest salary that is currently paid at the Oval is $237,697 per year. And I understand that after we brought in the new Oval Board, that they decided not to replace George Duncan. What was his salary when he left the Oval?
Who can help us with that? Mr. Chong or Ms. Lusk? Who can? I think that's been well advertised, whatever it is. Mr. Chong?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, I do not have that information in front of me on his remuneration. We'd have to provide that in a
If you can provide
memo.
it to us, please. Okay. Councillor Heed.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And just to carry on from Councillor Day, and I'll just make a few comments here, and then of course I have the same statistics provided on over and under. But the feedback getting from the taxpayers of Richmond is it's egregious. The overall base salary and benefits paid out to Mr. George Duncan, the former CEO of the Richmond Olympic Oval Corporation, when we are talking about in excess of $582,000. And I know there is no breakdown, but I think one can just determine there's a base salary, there's some bank buyouts, et cetera there. But at the end of the day, this is very concerning to the taxpayers, because if you look at the fact that Mr. Duncan left the CAO position on June 30th, 2022, and then went over as a full-time CEO of the Richmond Olympic Oval, and then left the Richmond Olympic Oval Corporation in July of 2024, he took home approximately $1 million in 2 years. Egregious. Absolutely egregious for the taxpayers of Richmond.
All right.
The lack of I'm not finished. The lack of transparency and accountability on this has to be very, very concerning as we go forward and make sure we're getting the best value for the taxpayers here in Richmond. But when someone makes $1 million in 2 years with an organization that is not perfect, we've got to be very concerned. Thank you. Oh, one more, just on the numbers. And again, Mr. Chong provided that to me. When you look at the Richmond Olympic Oval, employees that made in excess of $75,000, the number was 34. Employees that made less than $75,000, 364.
All right, we're going to call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Statement of financial information for Lulu Island Energy Company. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Day.
Yeah, so I just had a question about the cash assets. In 2023, they were $2,511,000, and in 2024, they were $7,576,000. That's quite an increase. Can staff explain why it's such a big difference?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, the difference is because of the developer contributions.
Okay, so we're hearing from some of the developers, the larger developers, that they're paying an awful lot more for the district energy in Richmond than they are in other cities. Are we stockpiling so we can make a big redevelopment for the Energy Corp, or what's the reasoning there?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, the developer contributions are used to finance our infrastructure that will be built in the next 2 years.
Okay, do we have a timeline on those improvements?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years, sorry, I didn't quite hear you. And then I see the salaries are $1,074,000. Aren't most of the people, the board members there, aren't they not like staff, like managers? Like, how many regular staff do we have there?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, we have 12 employees for LEC, so all the salaries is for LEC employees.
Okay, all right, thanks for your help.
All right, thank you, both of you. I'm just surprised when we get reports from the Oval and the Lulu Island Energy Corporation, quarterly. I'm surprised these questions aren't asked at the time. Thank you. Yes, actually, the public does get those because they are part of our agendas at Finance Committee. So the public does get that information. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Statement of financial information for the public library. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Heed.
Don't get frustrated. I'm just going to give you the numbers. The over and under, over for Richmond Public Library, that being over 75,000 is 24, and under is 123 employees. And you're probably wondering why I'm giving this out. I think we have to take this in perspective because we are going on our sunshine list as required on using the number based on the province of British Columbia. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. That brings us to public announcements and events. First of all, tomorrow morning, 9:30 in the morning, the public is invited to join members of council and me at the official opening of the new Steveston Community Park Playground. The new playground features a lighthouse tower, giant slides, large sand play area with diggers, a double zip line, along with swing spinners and other active features. So we're going to have all kinds of family-friendly activities tomorrow to mark this occasion. And I think most people know where that playground is, but it is just northeast of Number 1 Road and Moncton in Steveston. Next, we have the Participation Community Challenge. We're entering the final work of the Participation Community Challenge. We encourage everyone to make the most of the final few days and get active. Richmond was named as BC's most active community last year, and we are aiming to go one better in 2025 by becoming Canada's most active community. So if you want to register and sign up, go to our website, and you'll see all the free activities and the events. It's the Richmond website /participation. Then, of course, on Tuesday, a week tomorrow, we have the Steveston Salmon Festival. And that returns next week. It's the 78th year, and everyone is encouraged to come out and celebrate with a parade, live music, and many free family-friendly activities. Of course, the iconic salmon bake will be on again, so come on down to the Steveson to enjoy a savory barbecued salmon fillet, as well as many other food offerings. So you can go to stevensonsalmonfest.ca for all the information. Now, speaking of next Tuesday, just a reminder that City Hall is going to be closed that day for Canada Day. Online services will be available 24/7, and a complete list of city and association facility hours can be found on the website. And don't forget the property tax deadline. This is a reminder that the property tax payments are due Wednesday, July 2nd. Payments can be made online through MyRichmond at City Hall, in person or by check, or through your financial institution. Cash is no longer accepted over the counter or in the drop box at City Hall. So if you want more information on that, visit our website. But really, you want to pay your taxes by July 2nd, because if you miss that one, the penalties by legislation are really quite significant. So, Madam Clerk, bylaws for adoption.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 8 bylaws for final adoption. Bylaw numbers 1 through 6 and 8 have no opposition, and bylaw number 7 has opposition.
Okay. 1 through 6 and 8. Okay, so that's moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. And on the 7th one? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. Development Permit Panel, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 2 recommendations. Recommendation 1, that the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on May 28, 2025, and the Chair's reports for the Development Permit Panel meetings held on January 17, 2024, and February 12, 2025 be received for information. And recommendation 2, that the recommendations of the panel to authorize the issuance of a development permit for the properties at 4571, 4591, and 4611, 4631 Steveston Highway, and a development permit for the property at 3320 Jacobs Road be endorsed and the permits so issued.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We are now adjourned.